Hello and welcome everyone to the Sharmit podcast. Today I'm here with a very special guest, Kathryn DuPont, who is widely known in the community as the Advocacy Engagement Leader and the driving force behind the IBM Champion Program. Beyond her role at IBM, Kathryn is an accomplished business leader with a PCC certification and a certified executive coach. In this episode, we will dive into Kathryn's professional journey and her role within the IBM Champion Program. But before we jump into the conversation, I'd like to thank Kathryn for joining us today in this episode. And now I request you to please initiate the discussion by telling us something about yourself.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to be here. Sorry, my voice is a little bit hoarse this morning. It's early morning for me. So I am an IBMer. I've been with IBM for 9 years. Actually, my anniversary is coming up as we're recording this. So I've had the opportunity to work starting in the cybersecurity team, actually the security services. And then I think about 4 years ago, I moved into client references in the data and AI space. And then last year, our team became part of the Tech Exchange team. So that's the champions, that's the user groups, that's the conference. It's an all-encompassing team of people who are basically, we're dedicated to user advocacy and celebrating all the great things that IBM experts are doing. So it's a great opportunity.
Okay. So I think now we are good to start the discussion, and now we would love to hear more about your career journey and the influences. So can you share more about your career journey, like how it started and how your upbringing in Saskatchewan and Alberta influenced your path?
Thank you. Yeah. So I was born in Saskatchewan, which, if you know where that is in Canada, it's kind of right in the middle of Canada. It is the prairies. There's not very many trees. But I grew up with a very wonderful family. Both sides of my family, both sides came from a farming background.
Okay.
I did not grow up on a farm, but I spent a lot of time on farms, learning a lot about hard physical labor, and not in a bad way, in a very good way, but learning how to work with animals and about growing crops to feed people. And so there's a very strong influence there about community and being a people person, because the Prairie people, and I know this is across many lives and many industries, but there's this sense of helping each other and working together. So I grew up influenced by my parents and my grandparents to be a people person, and we help each other, and we work towards altruism and be supportive of individuals. So growing up on the prairies was very important in terms of influencing my work ethic and my desire to be part of something greater than myself. So I left Saskatchewan in the 80s and went to Alberta for school. So it really, my career journey was influenced a lot by that. But as a kid, I was quite creative and thought that I wanted to be an animator of all things. I wanted to work in the film industry, but particularly in animation. But it didn't, I'm not a very good drawer. So I ended up going to Alberta to go to film school. And that's where my career began. It began in film, and it was an opportunity to work with some amazing organizations. They have different production companies. A lot of films were shot in Calgary at the time. So I was fortunate to work on some films and some commercials. And then the Olympics, the 88 Winter Olympics came to Calgary, and all of the students at that time, we all got jobs. And so it was cool. It was interesting, but I was not interested in working in television. But here's the funny thing that happened. About a year to the day that the Olympics ended, I got a call from the TV station here in Ottawa, where I live now.
Okay.
They offered me a job, and I said no at first. I didn't want to move. I
Okay.
wanted to stay on the prairies. But they called me back a few months later and said, no, really, we have a job here for you, and we would like you to come and do audio engineering, because that was my major in film. I was an audio engineer. And so I gave in and I moved, and I ended up here. So
Okay. So in late 80s, like you relocate to Ottawa in order
yeah.
to pursue your career as a sound engineer, right? So
Yeah.
what has kept you there in this like in this location? Because currently you are staying in the Ottawa itself, right? So it's your job that keeps you there, or is there any other thing, like how the trajectory got changed from here?
Yeah. So what I'll tell you what happened. So I came to work in audio at the TV station, one of the biggest TV stations in Canada.
Okay.
It was a busy place. We had a lot of production, and I think that's what drew me here, was the opportunity to do a lot of production work. But what happened was, it was, the late 80s when um, the what was going on in the financials world was interest rates were really high, and so people were not investing, and so that affected production in the TV station. So I was spending most nights, night work really,
Hmm.
doing the news repeatedly. It was a very repetitive job, and I thought, this isn't for me. There was something else calling to me. And so I started taking some classes, some additional university classes while I was working, and realized that I wanted to go into psychology. So I quit my job and went right back to school, gave up and went back to school. At the time, I had a great partner in my life who was supportive and let me go to school and work part-time. And I pursued a degree in psychology, particularly in organizational behavior, as I was really fascinated by how do organizations work and how do people succeed in organizations. So I did that with the full intention, Amit, of going off and becoming a PhD psychologist. But here's the thing, to answer your question in a very long-winded way, um, life happens. And so
Yes.
when I finished school, I was so tired of being a broke student that I took a job in high tech. And I was like, oh, there's money here.
Mhm.
So I started working in technology and loved it and was fascinated also by it. And life just happened, and I never went back to school. I just kept working in tech and found this sort of labyrinth. I don't call it a career ladder. My mother's very influential, and she calls it a labyrinth. So I kind of started working in marketing and helping companies to promote their amazing technologies. That's sort of where it all began, you know?
Yeah. And like so far, with the so far discussion, we can simply say that you have explored various things from sound engineer to the tech domain and then
Ah,
in the IT industry. So it's quite inspiring for all of us. And during my research, I found out that despite being an Eastern Canadian, you are still a Westerner by heart. So
yeah.
how do your Westerner roots influence your work and life today's?
Yeah, I think I just have to go back to the the prairie attitude, and it's, Canada is such a big country, right?
Yeah.
There's sort of pockets of cultures. um we're probably very similar to Westerners, are similar to the East Coast people.
Okay.
We're very, again, very community oriented, very people oriented. um and that comes from, I think, hard labor, right? There's this, think about when people first settled in this country, in Canada, particularly in the prairies. How did people survive? Right? They didn't have firewood. How did you stay warm in dreadful winters? People didn't have furnaces, or and so they made it work. And I think it's that hardworking, be a good citizen, be productive, contribute to something greater than yourself. And I'm not saying that that's exclusive to Western Canadians. All people who are hardworking come from somewhere. And
Yes.
so what it's really about is, again, that farming, I think that farming background from my ancestors that just instilled this drive to work hard.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And let's talk a bit about your industry experience, because you have worked across various industries like technology, health, life science, and government. So, what key similarities or differences you have noticed in as a leader for these organizational culture?
I had an opportunity to think about this a little bit recently, and I would say to you that I'm not going to say that there are a lot of, I mean, there are similarities in leaders in terms of, what I see in good leaders are leaders who are there to serve others and not
Yes.
themselves. Servant leaders have happy staff, they have low turnover, they have an opportunity to innovate. They really look at innovation as key to their business growth. So that's never changed, in my opinion. What I have seen from an organizational culture perspective is a shift between what was considered normal behavior years ago to
Hmm.
what it is now, where certain things are not acceptable in the workplace. And I love that, because now what we see, and growing up from the 80s till now and seeing and being part of the workforce, I'm seeing more governance, I'm seeing higher standards, I'm seeing regulations, which may upset a few people, but it's keeping more of us in check and in line. And I think that's so important, because the world is different now. We're a globalized world. Like, we're globalized. That sounds a little ridiculous, but industry has globalized. We're crossing borders. We're crossing, the internet has changed everything, right? So the fact that we have more stringent standards, I think, is really crucial to, again, keeping people and keeping businesses within a framework is super important.
Right. Right. Okay. And if we talk about your experience, your professional experience, so you have spent over half of your career in the field of cybersecurity, a field that is ever evolving and critical today. So, what accomplishment in this space you are most proud of, and how what all things you have witnessed throughout your journey for in the domain of cybersecurity?
Well, it's very special to me. So again, working in tech for as long as I have now, I've worked in 5 different cybersecurity companies, vendors. So
Okay.
I'm not a technologist. I've worked as a promoter and PR person, public relations, analyst relations, working with vendors, cybersecurity vendors. Along the way, I've made some amazing friends and had some incredible experiences. Um, and that's been the most rewarding part of it, is just meeting these amazing people who, in general, who feel, their calling is to help serve and protect other organizations, or the organizations within where they work. um, I think one of my proudest accomplishments was working with, I'm going to not name them,
Mhm.
but what was at the time a very small startup that I helped launch into the public domain with analyst relations and public relations. They were a breakthrough startup company here in Ottawa. And eventually they were acquired by a very, very large and very well-known cybersecurity company.
Okay.
Um, I feel like I got to be part of something very special. And to this day, that technology is widely used
Yes.
across many, many organizations. So I got to see it kind of grow up and be something special. And to this day, it's still in use. So
Yes, and even like cyber security is the thing which is a high priority for all domain, like whether you are working for any particular domain, but it is important for all kind of domains and areas, because nowadays everyone is using web in order to run their business. So it's very important to give a proper attention to the cyber security. And
I agree.
you have a spend a lot of time for this domain, so you have learned a lot, particularly for this domain, like how it is working and how it is evolving by the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think, Catherine, you have also served as a board member since 2007.
Yeah.
So what's a standout moment or decision from your board experience that you have particularly proud of?
Well, yeah, being part of a board of directors is also an honor. You know, it's the ability to influence governance in organizations, whether they're publicly traded or they're not for profit. And that's where I've spent most of my time is with not for profit organizations. The one that I feel like has meant the most to me was working with an organization here in Canada called SHAD.
Okay.
SHAD. It used to be called Shad Valley, but their mandate was incredible. And I think what you're probably getting from me is the joy I feel from secondhand happiness. And I'll explain why. So Shad Valley, or Shad, is an organization that I'm going to say we, even though I'm not on the board anymore. We and they, each year they recruit about 100, no, it's more than that now, 300 students, high
Okay.
school students across Canada, and they invite them for a month to work on um, a project, but the students have to apply for it. But what's great about it is they focus on engineering and technology and entrepreneurship, and they bring these students in to work on a problem, to solve a problem. So
Okay.
I've had the privilege when I was on the board of meeting some of these amazing young people who are driven to make change in the world. And so I think what I'm most proud of is just, again, holding the observance of watching young people come up and who are driven to using technology and making a difference in the world. This organization's been around, I think now for about 45, 50 years. And they've had students come out of this program who go on to become Rhodes Scholars.
Okay.
Like, it's amazing. So that being part of that for just a few years was such an amazing experience for me, really.
So right now, are you in touch with all those students or some of the board members?
Some of the board members, yes. The students, unfortunately, I've lost track of, but it was just, again, like the idea of bringing youth and young people up to and inspiring them and giving them a platform to innovate is just, oh, my heart just explodes with joy on that.
Yes. Okay. Okay, so let's talk bit about your philosophy as an executive coach. So, as a PCC recognized and a certified executive coach, what is your core philosophy when it comes to coaching executives?
Yeah. So if I had to say what's the framework or the philosophy, I'd say that I try to take a systems approach with with executives, because they're at the top of the triangle, right? So I try to look at it from, okay, well, you as the executive, how are you operating with your team and how are you operating within the organization? And so working with that triangle, sorry, there's my dog, um, is really core to again, helping people move forward. The philosophy is that coaching is designed to help people move forward, create solutions that they're ready to execute on. So in the coaching spirit, we're not telling people what to do, we're helping them through being their thinking partner, find their way to a solution that they're prepared to commit to. And that's really how it works.
Okay. Okay, so I think now it's time to discuss the topic, which is I think most of the audience are thinking about. It's IBM Champion Program. So how
Yeah.
did you started with this program? Like we all know that you are the driving force behind this program. So how everything got started with the IBM Champion Program?
Well, first of all, I don't feel like I'm the driving force. I think Libby Ingracia has been the driving force, and I'm fortunate and so honored to work with someone so special. She has led this program for so many years and done such a magnificent job of the Champions program. I joined forces with her only 18 months ago.
Okay.
And what is I'm again inspired by I'm not religious, but I feel like I'm holding communion with the champions and sort of living vicariously off their excitement and their innovation and their, I don't know, their drive to use innovation to change the world. And so, are we working on anything special? I think we're always trying to grow the program, and, you know, celebrate some of the amazing work that people are doing. I was thinking about I had to think about this. I had to write some notes
Yeah.
about this. I think one of the challenges I have is, you know, why would you change anything that's working so well? Right? It
Mm-hmm.
does work well. So I think the introduction of the Rising Champions program last year was an important step for us. And that's because we know that there are so many advocates out there who are using IBM technologies. They're proud of their work. They're telling the world about their work. And so we want to reward them for that. We want to acknowledge it, because it just, again, it creates this perpetuating force
Yes.
of more technology. And, again, there's a human side to all of this. It's important to always think about the human being, even though AI is exploding, but
Yes.
we're still humans. We are affected by technology. So, we love the idea of sustainability and creating technologies that will help serve the earth, climate change, whatever it is, it's in servitude to human beings at the end of the day. So I don't know if I've answered your question or not.
No, no. Yeah, please continue.
Well, I feel like, the theme of our conversation today is, if you really want to know who I am, that's the theme, is observance of others, right?
Yes.
And what they're doing and feeling joy and pride and hope through the service of other human beings. That's really at my core. So being part of the Champions program, I get to do that. I get to be part of that and see it and witness it. Feels good.
Yeah. Okay. And how has the IBM Champion Program evolved since you have been involved in this particular? Because you have witnessed many things, many changes in this program. So how has the things changed by that time?
I think what's changed is we are, a larger team now. I mean, Libby was doing it all by herself for
Okay.
8 years. And so the bigger team has allowed us to, I don't know, expand the programs a little bit more. We're focused on, again, the Rising Champions was probably possible because we are a bigger team now. And I see it as continuing to grow. So, we may end up with more champions. Our nominations are opening up really soon.
Yes.
So we may end up with an even greater number of people. Right now we're just over 1,100 people. And so we could ooh, we could explode. So that's cool. And then also, again, just recognizing the advocacy of others through the Rising Champions program, I think will, again, create that visibility for, and again, it's not all about IBM. It's also about you and what you are doing as champions, and the importance and relevance to advancing humans,
Yes.
really. Yeah.
Okay, so we can say that the future of IBM Champion Program is bright, and we are going to see lot more champions contributing to this program. So,
Yeah, for sure.
are there any new initiative or area of focus that you are excited about apart from these all
Mm.
things?
Well, I wouldn't say there are new initiatives going on that I can talk about, but we're always thinking of things. We're always getting creative, and there's, again, I think it's all about growth and acknowledgement, making sure that we are supporting the champions as best we can, and giving them a platform to be themselves and continue to innovate through the IBM technologies.
Okay, all right. Okay, so yeah, Catherine, like we have many things to discuss, but just because of the limited time, I would like to ask my last question, which is related to your hobby, because your
Okay.
role involves a lot of strategic thinking and creativity. So, do any of your hobbies help you to stay creative and inspire your work in some way?
So I really don't have any hobbies,
Okay,
but that doesn't mean I'm boring, I hope. I guess right now I'm working on a master's degree in executive and organizational coaching. So that's really my hobby right now.
okay,
And what it just to come back to the strategic and creative thinking, I think by going back to school. So remember earlier I said I stopped school. I just went, I'm done. I think going back to school has two sort of important elements to it. Number one, it comes back to that inherent interest I had in organizational behavior.
okay,
And so that ability to come back to that is super important. The other thing is working on a master's degree has reopened, or maybe expanded is a better word, analytical thinking. And I have to construct a survey. I have to construct a study. I'm, looking around at all the great things in my life, like the champions, for example. Not that they're part of the study, but the observance again of seeing people in their workplace and how they're operating. And so the study I'm working on has, opened up the aperture to more analytical behavior, or more analytical thinking, more creative thinking, better writing. So it's not a hobby, but it's an advantage of
yes,
learning, right? And again, observing and being part of the greater picture, I think. I
yes.
don't know if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Catherine, for taking out the time and for joining us in this episode and for sharing your all expertise with the audience. So thank you once again, and I hope you enjoyed the session.
Thank you. I did. I appreciate you inviting me. It's hard to talk about ourselves.
Yes, sometime.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.